Hello everyone and welcome to Senior Susie Stamps. I'm glad you're here today. I wanted to show you a few things before we get started. And I have finished using this pack of paper for the year, and it's called Christmas Past. We've been working on it for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I have a few little cards that I made this week to show you out of this paper pack. And here they are. Now this first one, the focal is out of that paper pack, but this piece and this, the little red backer back behind Making Spirits Bright, is from a totally unrelated paper pack. I did put some silver glitter glue on these, and I have finished the inside with one of my sentiments out of my notebook. Here's another one. I put a little bit of distressing around the edges on the focal and on the first layer. And then this is just up on some foam tape. That's all it was for this particular card. And here's another one using a different focal point. And this sentiment came with the cards. There's a little bit of gold layer on here and a wooden ornament. And then that nice Baroque piece for the first layer and 3 little punched gold embellishments there. Here's another one using that same piece of paper, Jingle All the Way. So I pulled some wooden bells out of my stash and used those for a little embellishment. And I dog-eared the corners on this card. This one happens to be a happy birthday card, and that sentiment was in that paper pack. And this little poinsettia is one of the die cuts from the dies out of that paper suite from Paper Wishes. So let's get on to what we're going to work on today. And I mentioned last time we were together that I had gotten a second pack of paper, and it's called Christmas Floral Plaids. This paper is still available. It's absolutely gorgeous, but it doesn't have, and you can see the detail of what's in the paper pack here. We won't go through it today, but it doesn't have the quantity of nice focals that the first paper pack that we were looking at has. So we're going to have to make some for this. But when I was buying this one, I just went ahead and bought the whole suite, and what that includes is this 12 by 12, the coordinating colored stock, which is printed on both sides in different colors. The green one, for example, is light green on one side and dark green on the other. I also got some Katie Sue bird images, and it's for decoupage. So we're going to work with one of those today. Now this is a UK company, and I know some of y'all are from UK and you watch some of my videos and you say, I can't get that over here. Well, I just happened to find this one at Paper Wishes when I was ordering that paper, and I thought, oh, those colors would go together. And we normally don't get Katie Sue over here either. So we're crossing the pond a little bit today, but I thought these would look really pretty with that paper. And in that suite, there's also a set of dies, cutting dies, and some lightweight chipboard pieces. And there's also, wait a minute, hang on, I've got to find it. There's also a 6x6 paper pad, and we're going to use a little bit out of this today, one sheet, this plaid piece here and the back of it. And it's the exact replica of the 12 by 12, just in the 6x6 size. So the sentiments are a little smaller, and I kind of like the 6x6 sentiments for cards that are A2 size. And then the final thing is the 31 die cuts, and these are all nice sized die cuts, and we'll be using those a little bit, but not today. So I have a couple of cards ready to go today, and I have done the focal points because my time is limited today, and I wanted to get these cards made with you all today, but I have used my Tim Holtz stapler, which puts out a very small staple. Here, I'll show you. See that little small staple there? And it's nice for just a little detailed something. I used a little bit of this ribbon, this red gingham type ribbon. I've had this for years in my stash. It either came from Hobby Lobby or Walmart, but any kind of little ribbon that you have is fine. I used some little doilies. Now, I got these used in a lot of things from eBay, and they're originally from Stampin' Up, and they are kind of cream color on one side and white on the other side. So we'll use one of those today. I also have pulled out my medallion stencils. I have used a little 1/2-inch round punch, and I have used my bird punch from Stampin' Up. You all probably have one of these, or you've seen it before. It's no longer available except on the used market. And I have a little tag punch that I have used today. And I have used my little We Are Memory Keepers dog ear punch, and it comes in 3 different sizes in this nice little handy punch. I pulled out some old stamps today. This is called Birdhouse Mini, and it's a Stampin' Up set from 1996. Stamps beautifully, and we have used one of those today, as well as this little snowflake stamp from Stampin' Up. Have no idea which set this came out of. It was just in my drawer with snowflakes, and so it got used today as well. Let's get started. Now, in that paper pack, there are some 4 by 5 1/4 panels, and so this panel had a big white center, and it was a little too much white for me, but I didn't want to cover up too much of it because I think it will add a nice little border around the card, which will help finish that card without adding an extra layer, because I think this little plaid gives it enough layer. But what I have done here is I pulled this stencil out, and I used my little sponge dauber and stenciled some Memento black ink over the center of this focal panel. And then I took one of my doilies and flipped it to the white side and glued it down. So we have this nice big white snowflake center, and then I used my little snowflake stamp here and here just to get a little trio going, just for some additional interest on this card. So what I would like to do is to add a little black edge around this using my Memento black ink and my little sponge dauber. Now, this dauber gets used for black and brown, so I'm never exactly sure what's going to come out of it, but today we're going to do a little black with it and hope that it's black. And I'm not adding a lot, just enough to be covering up that white core, the paper core, and giving just a little bit of extra color in the corners, which helps pull your eye into the card a little bit. And there we go. That's all I'm going to do with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. And this happens to be a top fold card. The other one will be a side fold card. The plaid in this paper is absolutely gorgeous, and there's several different colorations of it. And I'm going to be anxious to use it again next week. So let me see where my tweezers are. I know they're here somewhere. So I'm just going to put this down with an equal border all the way around. Now, what I started the other day doing with this paper was I made one of these little decoupage Katie Sue birdhouses. And the way I did this was each one of these little panels here is a die cut that separates for you. But I went on the back of mine and I took some of my scrap pieces of heavy cardstock and I glued a piece to the back of each one of these, and then I put a little bit of ink around each panel, and that gives you the perception of the lift, if you will, and it just makes it a really interesting thing when you put it on a card. We'll use this one in the next card, but I have done the same thing with this little stamp in this set. And let me show you here, because the first layer, of course, is the full stamp, and then this little layer here, plus a scrap for the roof, is the second layer. And then I have the roof stamped onto some plaid paper, this little section here and this little section here. So I hope you can see what I've done there. And you can make your own decoupage that way if you don't have anything commercial. You can make your own that way. So I thought this one would be a nice little addition to this card. And I made a little tag. This one has a little oval top to it, and I knew I wouldn't be able to fussy cut that and have it look right. So I just pulled my little tag punch out and punched it, and then I put some black ink around the outside. I cut my little piece of ribbon and stapled it on there so that it'll go on flat. And then I'm going to put this on here like that. So let me go ahead and get this one glued down first. I want to keep these cards as flat as I can, but still have some interest in them. So there's the first step on this one. Now on this one, because this piece lifts it up, I've gone ahead and put a little spacer piece of white paper on the back of this so that when I glue it down, which I'm going to do right now, it lays flat on the card. And I'm going to put my little focal point here in the middle of my card. And it kind of covers up this little tag a little bit. That's kind of intentional. And that connects those two pieces. And the doily snowflake connects the rest of it that we're going to put on the card. And that is, I have used my little bird punch to make a little bird. And I have put a little black around the edges of him and his wings. You see there? The little black edging I've got going there. And then I have a little branch here that has just a little bit of the pattern, and it makes that branch just a little bit more interesting here. So I'm going to put my little branch in. I'm leaving room for a little gem here, here, and here. So I don't want to cover up that piece, but I do want to get my bird kind of low enough that it can sit there watching its little house. And I'm going to go ahead and glue my branch down. I don't want to put so much glue on that it squirts out, but I do want to make sure that this little guy kind of stays placed. And I'm going to put him up about right here and link him into that little line there. So there he goes. And then I'm going to put my wing on the back side of this little bird. Just a little dot of glue. And the wing on the front side, another little dot of glue. Right there. There we go. And then I'm going to put a little spacer, because this wing lifts the bird up some. So I'm going to put just another little spacer down. And this is a good way to use up some of your little small white scraps. Keep them and punch them and use them for your little spacers. And I think I might try to put one up behind his head. I think one will fit there. When you're making a flat card to go through the mail that you don't want to have a lot of foam on, this is a good way just to give yourself a tiny little bit of lift. It doesn't create much. And lots of times you just don't need a lot of lift for a card, especially if you're sending them internationally. And so here it is. I'm going to put his little body over the top of that branch and hold him for just a second until he dries. Then I'm going to get my black pen and my white pen. Hang on, I'm coming back. I'm going to draw a little eye on my little bird. Just a little black dot. And then maybe put a little bit of white on his wings just for a little motion going there. There we go. And then I think I'm going to put a little red heart. Let's see. I was thinking I'd put it right there, but I really think I'll put it right here instead of up there. There we go. Get my little jewel picker here. And there's just another little addition to our ephemera that we've made here. There we go. And now I think I'll put some gems on this. And I was thinking maybe some of these turquoisey blue ones would be pretty. Let's see about that. So I'm going to put one here, here, and here. And that kind of draws your eye through the card that way. And turns that background kind of into a nice little snowflake that way. So this is the outside of the card. And then I need a sentiment for the inside of the card. Let me grab one. And I think we'll use this one. May your holidays and New Year be filled with happiness. I'm just going to glue this down. And while I was punching birds earlier, I punched 2 of them so that I'd have one for the inside of this card. There we go. I also have a little piece of plaid, and I think this is the one we'll use for the inside of that. And I'm just going to glue it down right here also, just to use it. I want to show you another little tag that I made a little while ago, just using some scraps. And this uses that little tiny strip very nicely. And I have another little bird here. And I have not blacked this one. But I'm not sure I really like that. So I think we'll leave that off. There we go. So this card is now finished. And there it is. So let's go to this other card. And I'm going to start with a side fold card base on this one. Let me get rid of these. And I've taken some of the colored cardstock, and I used my black Sharpie, my chisel point Sharpie, and went around the outside edge of this. So it will glue down and completely cover the card front. Let me make sure my corners are all good. And we'll get this put down. Now, when I do this, I intentionally leave myself room on the edge where I don't have glue. And that way, I can take my tweezers and I can start my placement before I ever get any glue contact. And if you do that, then you can get a nice exact fit for your card. And it works really, really well that way. And it does look like I have a little bit hanging over there, so I will trim that before it gets sent out. Right there. Because you know how I am, I don't like that kind of stuff. Even though it's just a tiny little piece of paper, it aggravates me. So there we are. Now this little panel, I cut and I put some brown ink around the edge on that one. So that's the next step to glue down. And look how pretty that plaid is. And on this one, it's the one we're going to use the birdhouse decoupage on. I like this little green with it. It matches very nicely. And I thought on this colored cardstock, the paper was kind of universally colored so that it's not something that I will waste and have laying around the studio. It's something that I can use for lots of different pieces of paper. This is a tiny little scrap, and I thought we might as well just go ahead and use it, coming across that way underneath my focal point, just to give my little focal point someplace to sit so it's not kind of hanging out there in the card like it doesn't really belong there. It kind of weights it for us, if you will, and gives us a little landing spot for the birdhouse to be sitting. So I'm going to use up this tiny little scrap here, right like this. I'm going to bring it all the way to the edge there of the card, right here. So it kind of hangs over just a little bit. And then I made another little tag. This little sentiment came out of my notebook, and I dog-eared the corners, and I used this little punch for my tag. And I threaded through a little piece of ribbon and used my little stapler to staple it. And I glued on a little red heart. And I'm going to glue this to my focal point here. And then I'm going to put some spacers on the backs of them. But I kind of have to have this glued down a little bit before I start doing all that. So let me put a little glue on this side of my tag and see if I can get something going here wherever I want it to go. And then we'll see about shoring up the tag underneath. And we'll put a little piece of paper underneath the focal point as well. Because you see, now we have an uneven surface here. There, like that. Right, like that. Okay. So now I'm going to get in my large scraps here and put one up here for the big focal point. There we go. Right here, and that'll lift it up and make it nice and stable to go over this strip here. And then I have some more of these little punched circles, and we're going to elevate these up so that they're level here. And I'm just going to do that by adding them one circle at a time until I feel like they're kind of even going across that way. Because the decoupage paper is not quite as thick as the cardstock that I used in between, you can't really do 2 layers for each decoupage layer. And I'm thinking maybe 2 layers of cardstock, maybe just about right. Let's check this and see. If we put this down here like that, yep, I think that's going to work just perfect. And it gives you a nice little lift that way. So these are all ready to glue down. And we're really just gluing on the lift paper, and across here that's going to go on the little plaid strip here. And we'll be nicely glued down. And I'm going to let this set right on top of that plaid stripe there so that it kind of looks like a little post coming down here. And there is that card, all but the embellishments, done and done. Let's see what kind of little gems we can put on this one. And I think red might be just what we want. And I have some red ones right here. Those are a pretty color of red. It looks like maybe 5. Let's go for it and see what we got. There. I think that's a very nice card. And we'll put a little sentiment on the inside. I'll do that later because y'all have seen me do that plenty of times before. Now I've got one more thing I wanted to show you, and that is this. You saw my use of a ribbon here. Well, this is the same type of thing. This was a little scrap here that I had left over from the paper from last week. This is a non-related scrap, but it goes with the theme. This is a little piece that I got out of my trash can, but it fit perfectly, and it added a nice little stop there for joining the two papers together. And then this is just some more paper that I cut, and I slipped one of them down through my little slot that I made with my punch, and then I stapled them and I glued them to secure them down there. And this is a nice little tag that I've made out of scraps, and I'll try to find a little sentiment that I can put right up here and use it in another instance on these cards later on, so you'll probably see that yet again. Now, well, here's the 2 cards we made today. And before I go, I wanted to show you something else that I've been working on this week. I'm going to try to get a little group of ladies together here at the house and see if they don't want to make some little Christmas ornaments. And these are very, very easy to make, and I'll tell you how to make them. You take 6 circles and fold them in half. Each one will fold in half. And on this particular one, I have designer paper and then kind of just an all-over pattern. Designer paper with a different image on it. And this one has some little gems on it. Another image and some more gems. And I glued them all together, and it makes a nice little hanging Christmas tree ornament. Let me show you another one. This one's kind of a snowflake theme, and it's just using scraps. This particular circle punch was 2 1/4, and then I had a little scallop punch that was a little bit smaller on these, and I used my some of these medallions in every one of them is different, you know, like snowflakes, they're all different. And then I went back with my white pen and my diamond dots and just added some different things to them, and so that each one is all different, but it's just punched out circles that I have glued together and put a little hanger up the center of, and you can see how nice they'll look on a Christmas tree. So I hope you all have a great week, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye, everybody.